Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Live Penguin TV. My name's Sky. I'm going to be your host for the evening, and on the side here, I have got Stephen.
Hello, I'm going to be reading your comments tonight, so if you have any questions, put them in the comments and we'll do our best to get to them.
Wonderful. So before we go any further, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we're going to be watching these little penguins tonight. They are the Bunurong of the Kulin Nation. And I'd just like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Now, last night, everybody, was incredible. We had our first night of Live Penguin TV last night, and we had a whopping 771,000 viewers worldwide across the YouTube that you might be watching on now, across the Facebook that you might be watching on now. We just had so many people watching with us. So thank you so much. If you were one of those people who tuned in last night, thank you so much for doing that. And if this is your first time coming to watch the Penguin Live TV, welcome. We've just got a little swamp hen running past the little camera, the underground camera that we've got at the top there. So look, thank you so much for tuning in. Last night really was incredible. It was our first night doing it, and we're really excited to welcome you all back tonight to have another go at spotting the penguins coming home from some time away at sea, coming back to land. Now, in front of us, we've got the Penguin Parade stands. In better times, you might have been sitting there right now. You probably would have had your winter woolies on, because in Australia, right here, right now, it is winter. It is cold. You would have been rugged up. And you know what? Just because you're at home and we're bringing the penguins to you does not mean that we have to diminish the experience in any way. So I encourage you, open your doors and windows. Perhaps turn the fan on and get some sea salt spray and spray it in and get that sort of sea salt spray feeling, get that windswept feeling going in your home. We want it to be as legitimate as possible. We want it to feel really right. And that's what it would be like if you were sitting on those stands right now. It'd be a little bit cold, probably a little bit windswept, but you would be so excited. You would be casting your eyes out to the ocean, awaiting the penguins. Now, last night, they kept us waiting. Last night, these penguins kept us waiting for about 10 minutes, I would say. And I imagine that we might have a similar time tonight, but first thing, you never know. They are completely wild. We don't have any control about when they arrive and when they don't. So, they could come in the next few minutes. They could come in 15 minutes. It's really hard to know these things. So that's number one. Number two is that we do have a higher tide tonight. So if you have a look here, the water's edge is almost up in the sand dunes where the vegetation and the rocks start. So what this means for our penguins is that they haven't got such a far dangerous dash tonight. What I mean by that is that the penguins will arrive on the water's edge, and they usually have to wait. They usually are biding their time before they feel brave enough, because they only come in at sunset. They wait until it's nice and dark. And when it's still a bit light, they might be a little bit nervous. And so they're waiting on the edge of the water. And if they've got a long distance that they need to travel, then they are going to have to really build up a lot of courage. They're really going to have to go. Whereas on a night like tonight, when where the waves are nice and close, they don't have to run so far at all. They've really got a very short distance that they need to travel. So in that way, we might have a slightly earlier start time, but it's really hard to know. As I said, they're wild. We don't know what they're going to do. But when they do arrive, I imagine the big groups that we're going to see tonight are going to arrive just here on these rocks right here. I imagine that they're going to run across this tiny little stretch of beach, and I imagine that we're going to see a whole lot of preening behaviour on the rocks just in front of us here. Also, like last night, this pool has stuck around. So this is not a normal pool. This is not usually here, but we've had a lot of rains recently, and this does make the journey home for these penguins a little bit easier. They can jump in and swim a lot of the way home. So that's really exciting for these penguins. Really good news for them, this ephemeral pool. But let's look back out to the beach and get excited for these penguins arriving. All right, now while we wait, I will tell you a little bit about who we are. We are Phillip Island Nature Parks. We're in charge of the Penguin Parade, and we are a not-for-profit conservation organisation, and we look after the Penguin Parade and the penguin colony. We've got 32,000 penguins in this colony, and we really look after them and want to make sure that that the population is healthy, that everything's going well, so that in no time we can have you back here on those stands watching the penguins arrive. But we also look after the Koala Conservation Reserve, where we've got a number of koalas who have come to us due to the bushfires that we had in Australia across the summer. We look after a lot of the beaches on Phillip Island, a lot of the natural areas. We look after the knobbies and seal rocks, and even a Churchill Island heritage farm. So look, we do all sorts of stuff. And if you want to help us in the work that we do, it's a lot of conservation work. What you can do is, in the description on the video, there is a link to the Penguin Foundation. And if you would like to donate to us, we would happily accept it. It really helps us keep doing what we're doing, keep protecting the penguins. You can even adopt a penguin. And you know what? Father's Day is coming up for those of us in Australia. I don't want to panic you guys in the Northern Hemisphere. Those of us in Australia have Father's Day coming up very shortly. And you know what? I reckon your father has always wanted a penguin. Symbolically, though. We adopt them, and it means that you then care for the penguins. So do feel free to jump onto that Penguin Foundation website, perhaps adopt a penguin. But also, the Penguin Foundation website has lots of great information about penguins. Now, last night we had lots of comments. They were flying so quickly we couldn't even read them, let alone answer them all. So if there's something that you're really burning to know about these little penguins that are going to be crossing the beach tonight, then please go to the Penguin Foundation website. We've got information there for you, and it might answer your question. All right. Let's cast our eyes out to sea.
So as you're watching this stream, keep your eyes out on the ocean. See if you can spot a raft of penguins, and let us know in the comments if you do spot one of those rafts that are swimming out there.
Ooh, okay. And what does Stephen mean by rafts? So a raft of penguins means a group of penguins in the water. Now, penguins tend to spend most of their day by themselves, just swimming around, hunting for food. They love seafood. They like to eat anchovies, and they like to eat other small fish that will fit inside their small beaks. They like sea jellies. They like shrimp. Squid, sorry, is what I was meaning to say there. But they like all sorts of seafood, and but they're usually hunting by themselves. But at this time of night, out in the bay here, is when they start to group together, because there's safety in numbers, and they don't want to cross this beach without their buddies there for support. So they start to call to one another. And I think people quite enjoyed my impression last night, so I'm going to do it again. They make a little hucking noise like this. It goes, huck, 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 huck. If you're at home and you want to drive your parents mad, perhaps try some hucking noises. And they're saying to each other, hey, are you ready? Are you ready to go? Because I'm ready to go. Let's join together. Let's become a group. Let's be a raft, and let's swim in together, because there's safety in numbers. And they're nervous to cross the beach without those buddies, because there could be still some dangerous birds, bigger birds, that would like to swoop down and eat these poor little guys, these poor little penguins. And so what they're thinking is, if there's more of us, it's less likely that I will be the one that gets eaten if one of these birds, if one of these Pacific gulls or swamp harriers is still awake and wants to try their luck. Now, I'm just sort of having a look at this cloud right in the middle of the screen there. I'm wondering if maybe that's a raft of penguins. A raft of penguins looks like a black disturbance in the water, because what it is it's a whole lot of penguin heads above the water hucking to each other and talking to each other. And it does look like it's coming this way. Look, it could just be another disturbance in the water, but it could be a raft. It's really hard to tell from this distance. I've got my fingers crossed for it being a raft and that penguins will be on their way shortly. Have we got any calls for penguins yet? Have we got an? Oh no, it's definitely a raft, everybody.
No, so, not yet, but we're just seeing the first raft swimming close to the shore right now. Our ranger is counting the penguins, just mentioned that it's very close to happening. So keep your eyes on that shoreline. The penguins are going to show up almost magically.
Yep, they're just in the white water there. You might be able to see some little penguin heads. I'm going to zoom in for you and see what we can do with that. They're going to, yep, there we go. They're washing up on the rocks right now. There they are. They've arrived, everybody. Woohoo! Thank you, penguins. Thank you for turning up. And they're gathering themselves because I imagine surfing in on these waves must tumble you around a fair bit, particularly for such a small penguin. These are the little penguins, little by name, little by nature. Oh, yep, they're on the run. Let's go, 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 go. Oh, yep, there they are, there they are. They're off and they're racing. They're taking oh, yep, there they are. So they're spread out across the beach now. And it's quite a big raft. Look at that, everybody.
And have a guess in the comments, how many penguins do you think are in this group crossing the beach right now?
Oh, yeah. And that's actually a really good point by Stephen because we have, I think, one of the toughest jobs in the world belongs to Phillip Island Nature Parks, and that is the job of the penguin counter. And the penguin counter counts the penguins, as the title suggests. So the penguin counter tonight is a lovely lady called Sue, and she is furiously scanning the water looking for these rafts of penguins. And on the tiny little stretch of beach, you can see that the beach only runs for a metre or two. Within the distance from the water to those rocks, she has to count every single penguin that arrives tonight. Tough job, Sue. I do not envy her. It's not a job I want. It's a job that Stephen does sometimes. So if you've got any comments or encouragement for Stephen when he has to do his penguin counting, chuck them in the comments. And they're on their way. Yep, they're not stopping for anything. We've got them jumping into this pool, going on their way. And you can see that many of them are jumping in and swimming directly underneath the stand. This is called the Penguins Plus stand. And it's a place where when it's safe to come back, you can certainly get tickets to sit right there and have penguins literally swimming and running underneath you. Whereas these penguins are heading up the hill, it looks like. So we're going to follow them a little way up the hill. I might zoom in a bit for you so we can see them a little bit more closely. And yep, they are moving quite quickly. I almost can't keep up with them on my camera. They are on a journey tonight. Some of them might be traveling 2 kilometers home. Some of them live 2 kilometers from the sea edge. That is a long journey. It's a long journey even for a human, and these guys are only 33 centimeters tall. Imagine waddling for 2 kilometers with tiny little legs. They are tough little things. They are little, but they are not what are the words I'm trying to say? They are not fragile, you know, they are hardy. And here we can see them on the underground camera. Now this camera looks at our penguin highway. You can see it's quite a wide path that they can walk down. And they really like it because it hasn't got too many hazards on it. It hasn't got rocks that they need to climb over. It hasn't got grass that they need to push through. No, they can just walk quite clearly down it. So we get a lot of penguins walking along this penguin pathway. In fact, when you can come and visit us, walking along the boardwalks alongside this penguin pathway is a really great way to get really close to these penguins and to see them really up close and personal. Another great way to see these penguins up close and personal, though, is if you look on the screen to the very left, there is a window. and that is our underground bunker. And you can also get tickets to go to this underground bunker where those penguins that just walked past would be literally 30 centimetres away from your face. So that is another great place that you can watch these penguins from, and lots of great views in this underground camera. But I'm going to go back and have a look to see if we can see any more rafts of penguins arriving.
Now, our penguins were very punctual tonight. They came in at the exact same time as last night. It was a 6:21 p.m. start of when we first saw the penguins coming across. So we're going to have to count them for about 50 minutes tonight to see how many penguins are going to cross this beach. So put in the comments how many penguins you think we're going to have in total this evening.
Now, last night, I believe we had 844 penguins, Stephen. Yes, 844 penguins that Rachel had to count. So it'd be amazing if we had a similarly fantastically high number for Sue tonight to count as well. So let's look out for these rafts of penguins, looking for that disturbance on the water, because really once they arrive, these penguins are not going to be sticking around. They barely have to run at all to make it to that safe haven, those rocks that are in the front. So we've really got to catch them as they arrive. But in the meantime, I might just put the zoom out a little bit so that we can see them, but hopefully also see if we've got any penguins. Yep, still sitting on the rock. So I think I'm just going to pause it here because I imagine when penguins arrive, they're going to arrive to the left of the screen, but we can still see some penguins on the right of the screen as well.
And while we're watching these penguins, I had a really good question from a young boy named Alex. He's about 4 years old, and he wants to know if these penguins have ears. Now, penguins do have ears, but their ears are very different than ours. Their ears are internal, so they don't have these big flappy earlobes like we do on our heads. Penguins, you have to dig around under their feathers to be able to find the cavity of where their ears would be. So penguins can hear, and they do love to sing to each other while they're on land.
Oh, they sing to each other. How romantic, everybody. Isn't that adorable? So we're getting a good look at these penguins as they come past on our Penguin Highway, and at this up close view, that's a good time to really look at the curious way they waddle. I would love it if you are watching at home to try and waddle like a penguin. Now, the way to do it is that you need to lock your knees in. You need to not bend your knees because if you bend your knees, you're not being a penguin. Penguins can't bend their knees. They've got fused knees, so they have to keep their legs nice and straight. And the only way you can really walk, oh, yep, we've got a few more penguins just arriving on the beach here. It's just literally 2. I'll come back to waddling, everybody, but I'm just curious. I'm interested in these 2 penguins who've just arrived. They've arrived on their own. Now, remember I told you there's usually safety in numbers. They usually want to turn up in a group. But these guys, no, they're mavericks. They are brave, and they're saying, I don't need a group. I'm going to go for it on my own. What you will notice is that they are moving very slowly. They are moving very tentatively. They're not sure. And in fact, they're not really committing. They're kind of looking around. They might be waiting for more to come. Nope, just as I say that, of course, they take off. Yep, so they are continuing on their way, but they're taking their time. They're taking their time. So I'll continue to tell you about how you can waddle like a penguin. So you've got to hold your knees straight, and you've really got to rock from side to side, and that's how you move. And that's how these penguins move. So imagine waddling like that for, as I said, up to maybe 2 kilometres tonight.
We have another question from a young girl named Summer, and she's wondering how the penguins find their burrows. Now, penguins, they rely on a very good sense of sight to find their way home. They memorize their pathway home. They always walk the same pathways every time they come home. They always go back to the same burrows. So these penguins, they're looking for landmarks as they're walking around. They might notice a very interesting bush that they're walking past. They know to turn left at the bush and then turn right up the hill, and they live the 3rd tree on the left. So penguins have a very good memory and are very reliant on their sense of sight to find their way home.
So thank you so much for asking all these questions, everybody. We are loving it. And keep those comments coming in as well. We love to know that you're watching. We like to know if you're enjoying it. It's been a while between rafts, hasn't it, everybody? Oh, we've got another maverick solo penguin crossing on the rocks. Now, this is a penguin who seems to have lost their way a little bit because they're going sideways across the beach. Now, generally, our penguins tend to arrive at the spot that they mean to walk. So we've got about 5 different penguin pathways where the penguins will arrive. What the main one I would say is right here, in front of this camera that we've got, but we've got 5 others up the beach. So poor Sue is counting penguins across 5 penguin pathways. But I'd say this one has washed up slightly off center, not quite right where it meant to wash up, and now it's having to do the horizontal walk across the beach to get to the penguin pathway it wants to start at, to then take off and do this cross of the beach, the very short beach tonight. And it's by itself, as I said, just like the other 2. It might be a bit nervous to go by itself, or like the other 2, it might actually slowly but surely make its way across. I'm very interested to see what choice it will make now that it's made it to where it wants to be. Oh, and it does not have to make that choice because we've got another raft of penguins has just arrived. Oh, and it's a big one, everybody. Look at this.
Wow.
Oh. They've washed in and they've made it much easier for that poor little penguin to make the decision, I'll just wait for this group and I'll walk along with this group. Now you can see they're not hesitant at all. They are not like that one penguin, not sure whether to go. Nope, they're all going at the same time. Oh, one in the back's running to catch up. Catch up, little buddy. Yep, made it safe. And they're clambering onto the rocks. Now, yep, the best way to spot these little guys is those bright white bellies. That's how we know that they're there. But they've also got blue feathers. So little penguins, I should actually tell you about the species. These are little penguins, and I haven't been calling them little penguins because, they're little and they're sweet. No, that's literally their name. They are the little penguin, and it's because they're little. That's literally why it is. They are the littlest penguin of all the species. We've got 18 in the world and they are the smallest. So they've been called the little penguin. Questions I got last night were, are these the same as the fairy penguins? Are these the same as the blue penguins? Yes, they're all the same penguin. We call them the little penguin to make it less confusing, I guess, because having 3 different names for the same species is a bit confusing. And literally their scientific name is Eudiptera minor meaning small, and in Latin that means good little diver. So of course, it does make sense that they're called the little penguin, and that's why they're so named that. But yes, if you've heard of the fairy penguins, if you've heard of the blue penguins, this is the same penguin. All right, look at that. That is a veritable swarm of penguins. And a few racing to catch up. So you can see a lot of them are shaking themselves off. They're shaking off the water. Others, nope, they're not stopping. They're still on their way. Once again, swimming part of the way home. They're much better swimmers than they are walkers. So having this pool here, they are like, yes, thank goodness, this is great. Now I don't have to walk. Now I don't have to waddle all this way. I can just swim part of the way. And under this, well, beyond this path, there is a stream that these penguins can use to get some of the way home too. So they find their cheat ways of making their life easier. It's great to see these penguins swimming. What a treat for them. Where are they swimming to? Oh, yep, off to the side here. Zoom out a little bit and get a bit of a bigger picture of what's going on. Oh, yep, so some again heading up the hill. Others heading down this penguin highway. And yeah, I'm going to switch the camera so that you can get another good look at these little wonders. Oh, that is such a good amount of penguins. Hi, guys. Thanks for coming home. Pleased to see you.
Now we do have some more questions that are popping up. So I have one from Michaela, and she's wondering, what's the average age of our penguins? How long do they live for? Now, the answer to that is our oldest penguin here was about 26 years old, which is a very, very old penguin. They usually do not live that long. The average age for our penguins is roughly 7 years of age. So they can start having babies at about 2 to 3 years. And they're pretty special when they do make it over that 7 year period. They become one of the elders in the colony.
We've got one, oh, yep, no, they're moving again. No, one very happy penguin just standing in the middle of the pathway has sort of seemed to get a little way along the journey and then has decided to stop for any reason. Sort of. I wonder if when these other penguins come along that will remind this penguin, oh, yeah, I'm meant to be walking, and they'll walk again, or if they'll really settle into what they're doing. Because what that penguin is doing is preening. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Oh, yep, no, that's, nope, still preening. So we can see that penguin is rubbing it's getting bowled over by the other penguins, but it is rubbing its beak through its feathers. And why it's doing that is because penguins need to be waterproof, which is hard when you're covered in feathers because feathers aren't notoriously waterproof all the time. So the way that the penguin feathers stay waterproof is that they are all of the little fibers of the feathers have got hooks and barbules and they stick together kind of like a Velcro. So that's the first line of defense. The second line of defense is that they are packed together really tightly so that there's almost no room for water to make its way through. On top of that, the third line of defense is that just like you're seeing there, they comb their beak through their feathers with some oil. They have an oil gland near their tail, near their bottom, and they get oil out of it and then they comb that through their feathers. So all those three things together make them very water repellent and keep them nice and healthy because, of course, they're swimming day after day. They might spend up to 28 days out in the water. They need to stay warm. They need to be protected. A healthy penguin should not have water touch their body. And I think I said this last night, but if you were to pick up a penguin, it would bite you. But if you were to put your fingers into its feathers, you'd be able to feel soft, downy feathers that should be completely dry underneath that waterproof coat, that outer layer of feathers is probably the best way to see it. So you can see a stack of these penguins. They've literally jumped out of the water, made it across the beach just onto these rocks, and now they are happily preening themselves. They feel safe now. The dangerous dash is when they're worried about predators. Once they have made it onto the rocks, they're not so worried anymore. They're blending in with these rocks. They're camouflaging. Their blue feathers blend into the dark-coloured rocks, and they start to feel confident to preen themselves. So you can see lots of preening behaviour going on here. Lots of picking at their feathers, ordering them, combing them through, helping each other with the hard-to-reach spots at the back of the head. You see lots of shaking of their fins or flippers, and yeah, just all sorts of. They're looking pretty relaxed, aren't they? This is the salon, I guess.
It's a lot of fun watching these penguins preening themselves. I like to think that they're making themselves beautiful for their partners at home because right now we're starting to enter in how many babies do penguins have in a year. And the short answer to that is every time they lay eggs, there's always 2 eggs. They're not twins, those eggs. They're just siblings, but they'll lay 2 at the same time, roughly a day apart. And if it's a really good breeding season, they might have 2 sets of eggs in a year, maybe 4 babies in a year. And even seen occasionally, once or twice, they've had 3 sets of eggs in a year. So up to 6 babies in 1 year. But that has to be a really special year for that to happen.
Yeah, so as Stephen said, it is getting to the beginning of the breeding season. Now, these penguins spend 80% of their life out in the ocean, and that's because the ocean is their supermarket. I told you they like to eat seafood, so they've got to go out there to get their food. However, they're birds, so they do lay eggs, as Stephen was telling you, and they've got to do that on land. So they do have to have a home on land that they can come to and keep their eggs nice and safe, and where they can look after their eggs and get them to hatch and have their little babies. So they build burrows. They dig holes in the ground, and sometimes we give artificial burrows to our penguins as well. In fact, I'll zoom out We'll have a quick, oh no, more penguins seem to be, a very small group of penguins has just arrived. Yep, there we go. They might have been there before. I'm not sure. I'm losing track, everybody. So I'm going to take you to a burrow. So if it was a penguin-made burrow, it's a sort of a hole in the ground, a bit of a tunnel leading to a little chamber where they can happily look after their eggs. Or we have these artificial burrows as well. And these are burrows that we've made. We cover them sometimes in some branches that you can see there to keep them nice and insulated. And they really like these sort of pre-made mansions. They're really keen to move right in. So we've put a few around just to make it really easy for them to live happily here on Phillip Island. And it's the start of the breeding season. So they're coming home at the moment in order to make their burrows nice and comfortable for the imminent arrival of eggs and hopefully chicks. And it will be males and females both will furnish the burrow and make it nice and comfortable. And males and females both look after the eggs. Of course, the females lay the eggs, but the males will take their turn more or less equally to look after those eggs. And then once the chicks have hatched, both males and females will look after the chicks as well and be responsible for feeding those chicks, which is quite a daunting task actually, because these chicks grow very quickly. They need lots of food.
And these penguins are absolutely fantastic parents. They're helping to protect their babies at home when they're very young, and one of them might be guarding their young babies or the eggs to save them from any potential predators. And we did have a question from Doey who was asking, what are the predators of our little penguins? And when they're out on the ocean, the main predators of the penguins would be some types of seals will eat penguins. Also, birds of prey that live out on the ocean might have a go if they find one. But on land, their only real predator, only natural predator, native predator, would be birds of prey. So any large raptor bird that likes to eat small animals might be looking for our little penguin. And that's why our penguins are hiding in their burrows in the daytime, or they're out on the ocean in the daytime, and they only come home at night. It's safe to come home at night because all those big scary birds of prey go to sleep for the evening.
We've just had another quite small little raft of penguins. When I see rafts like this, I think Sue must be very happy about that. Sue must be very stoked that she doesn't have to get extra stress trying to count those penguins. That's a pretty manageable amount. So have a go, everybody. See if you can be a penguin counter. See if you can count this raft that has just arrived here. And Stephen's going to count them as well, and he's going to tell you roughly how many he thinks there are too.
Oh, you put me on the spot. That's about 19 or 20 penguins.
That's what I thought as well. So have a little look, and it's always an estimation. You know, it's always you do your best, you have a count, and it's going to be pretty close to right. We've been counting since 1968, as often as we possibly can, and even though we have been closed to the public over the last little while, we still have been making sure that we've had a penguin counter here every night so that we can continue this long-term studies that we're doing into the birds. Also, when we are being a penguin counter, the other thing that we're looking for is we're looking for the health of the penguins. We're looking to see if there's any penguins with limps. We're looking to see if there's any oil on any of the penguins, if there's been an oil spill perhaps. We're looking to see if they're nice and healthy, because if they're not, then we might be forced, unfortunately, to intervene and to take them into our wildlife hospital. Now, if you would like to support our wildlife hospital, you can jump to the description, our link to the Penguin Foundation, and give us a donation, because the donations do fund that wildlife hospital that looks after sick and injured penguins. So that's a way that you can support us as well.
We did have another question from Mel, who was wondering, how do we keep these penguins safe from the foxes on Phillip Island? And the Penguin Foundation actually has had a hand in helping us to eliminate all of the foxes here on Phillip Island. We do not have foxes here on Phillip Island. We got rid of the last fox a few years ago now. So we are now a nice fox-free area. It not only keeps our penguins safe, but it also keeps all of the other native creatures and critters that love to call this island their home safe from an invasive species that can be absolutely devastating to the wildlife here.
Yeah, we're so proud of that. We are absolutely really proud that we've been able to be fox-free here on Phillip Island, particularly as well because it has led to us releasing some eastern barred bandicoots here on the island. So if we get lucky, and I mean you have to be really lucky, we might see an eastern barred bandicoot tonight. Now what you're looking out for is an animal that looks a little bit like a rabbit, but it's got stripes on its back near its bottom. And they're not a rabbit though. I say they look a bit like a rabbit, but they're a marsupial. They have got a pouch just like a kangaroo does or a koala does. So they're a marsupial, a small marsupial. Now they are essentially endangered, they're extinct in the wild, except that we do have some here on, so let me just change the camera for you. There we go. We do have some here on Phillip Island. They had almost gone completely extinct in the wild, and Zoos Victoria took some of them in and bred them and bred them and bred them. And once we were fox-free, we were able to release them here on Phillip Island. And this is giving them a second chance at life, and that life in the wild, I guess. So yes, technically they are extinct in the wild, but who knows, maybe that is something that can change sometime soon if we get a pretty good population going here, thanks to not having any foxes here anymore.
I just wanted to give a bit of a warning to everybody. We have about 5 minutes left in the stream this evening. So if you have any last comments, feel free to put them down. We love reading your comments. We might not get to every question tonight, but we do appreciate you asking them. We've had some absolutely fantastic questions this evening.
Yep, and do remember we're going to be doing this every night for the next little while. So if you didn't get your question answered tonight, come back tomorrow. And if you don't get your question answered tomorrow night, come back the next night. You can keep tuning in. If you just can't get enough of these gorgeous little penguins, then you can just tune in anytime you like over the foreseeable future. Do keep in mind, of course, that we going live just after sunset, and sunset is going to be at different times as the year goes on. So it will become a bit more of a late night penguin party in the height of summer. At the moment, it's still it's like a penguin dinner time, isn't it? So still more penguins arriving. You can see the groups seem to be getting a little bit smaller, nothing like that first group of penguins that we had. This might be a bit of a simpler one to count. I'm going to count that there are 5. 5 in this group. I reckon I could be a penguin counter. Look, I've got the chops. I can count 5 penguins, no worries. What are you talking about, Sue? It's not hard. Oh, no, it's very hard. I take it back. I take it back. Oh, yep, another little penguin coming in from the back there. Looking like it might be trying to join the group, though not in too much of a hurry. Not in too much of a hurry there. So let's go see if we still got some penguins preening on the rocks here. Oh, yes, still in the salon. Still getting their feathers nice and straight. But it is getting smaller. So, yep, we're getting to the point where we're going to be winding down now. So make sure if you've got any last things to say that you do pop them in the comments. Is there anything we still need to talk about, Stephen?
I think we've pretty much covered a lot tonight. There's a lot of information that we're giving out, and there's so many questions. I don't think we'll ever be able to answer them all. Although one of my favorite ones that I just saw, and I've seen it a few times as well, is can penguins fly? That's a very easy answer to that. Penguins cannot fly.
Wonderful. Now, a question that we have been getting a fair bit today is, do the penguins notice the difference? Are they happier that people aren't there to watch them? Are they sadder that people aren't there to watch them? Do you know what? They don't even know. They don't even notice the difference. And we've actually been studying this for quite a long time. So we've got a weighbridge. That is a special device that it's like a penguin barcode scanner, really. They walk through this little tunnel, they get weighed, they get scanned, and they go on. We've got one in a place where there are no people, no lights, no noises, no nothing, completely wild colony. And we've got one that is in the middle of our penguin parade. And we monitor when the penguins arrive, how heavy they are when they arrive. Then we go and have a look in their burrows, and we do checks weekly, and we see how many babies they're having. We do all sorts of tests to see similarities between both sites. And what we found for years after years, years over years, we found that there's actually no statistically significant difference between that study site that has no people and our penguin parade. So what we know from this, we've got a few more penguins have just arrived. Oh, hello, everybody. And what we know from that then is that us being there and watching them isn't really impacting on them negatively or positively. They don't even know about it. They've had us there their whole life. It's just normal to them. So look, we haven't really noticed any difference since we've closed down to guests. It's been more or less the same. And we imagine that once we're able to bring you back and have you sitting on these stands again, that it won't make any difference to these penguins and their behaviour at all. So that's really good news. And look, yes, these penguins are happily swimming on their way home. So I think we better say goodbye. I think that last 5 minutes is up. So thank you so much for joining us on our second night. We hope to see you again either tomorrow or sometime in the future. Do keep checking back on us. We're only going to see bigger numbers of penguins arrive as the time goes by. So they're heading home. We're going to head home. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you all for tuning in.
We'll see you next time. Bye.